All right, Shalom. First off, I want to say all praises to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS. And Shalom to the elect out there pushing the word in sincerity and in truth. All right, so this is GMS Breakdowns. It's a new site, new page. Pretty much I'm going to go into breakdowns of words, breakdowns of chapters, and even verses, okay, through the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Alright, my name is Nazar Khad. The first breakdown I'm going to go into is Jeremiah, the 51st chapter, as you can see. And I'll stop around the 4th or the 5th verse. Let's see how the spirit works. Alright, so without further ado, this is Jeremiah 51, verse 1. It says, "Thus saith the Lord, Behold, I will rise up against Babylon, and against them that dwell in the midst of them, that rise up against me, a destroying wind." So what's that wind? Well, it's a lot in here. It says, first off, who's the I? The I is the Most High, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. And it's saying, I will rise up against Babylon. Babylon is talking about America. All right, break down the word Babylon. It goes back to Babal in the Hebrew, which means confusion, which pretty much epitomizes everything about America. America is they not only follow in the footsteps or the practices of ancient Babylon, but they represent confusion or Babylon by the practices that it does and the laws that they push. They've got women over men. They've got homosexuality that's rampant, not only rampant, but promoted. And they've got a whole mixed multitude of all nations in America. All right. So Babylon, whenever you read in the scriptures and it talks about Babylon or ancient Babylon or the daughter of Babylon, more than likely in this scenario, it's referring to America. All right. Now, what's the Most High going to raise up against Babylon, a.k.a. America? A destroying wind. Now, what's that destroying wind? That destroying wind is talking about those missiles, those ICBM missiles, because when a missile touches down, there's something called a nuclear wind that pushes, and then it pulls everything in its path inward. That's how much power that nuclear missile has. All right. Now, verse 2, it says, "And I will send unto Babylon fanners that shall fan her, and shall make her land empty." All right. Now let's break that down first. It's saying, "I will send unto Babylon fanners that shall make her land empty." What's that talking about? That's talking about the other nations. Okay. Jumping in, because a bulk of the missiles are going to come from Russia. It's well known that Russia has a bulk of the missiles that are created on the planet Earth. Russia in America, Russia has a bulk of those missiles. And those other nations that the Most High allowed to build up their nuclear arsenal, they have a lot of missiles too. And guess what? The Most High is going to allow them to use it. The Most High allowed them to gain their nuclear arsenal simply for the destruction of America. All right? I'm talking about the other nations like Iran, North Korea, and all its allies. Okay? China, they've got missiles too. So they're all going to, and you know what? Even America's so-called allies are going to use their missiles on America too, and I'm talking about the nations within NATO. All right, they're going to use their missiles on America too. So that's that fanner. All right, now to prove that it's the other nations, and which now when it says fanners, that proves that it's talking about a missile or something that's fire related, because a fanner, I got a picture here. This is a fanner. This is what's called a Victorian fanner, right? This is something that um, they used. They would take this in here and they would press it up and down. Air would get pushed through here and then push out this way. And what it would do, it would feed oxygen to the fire, to a flame. All right, because in order for a fire to grow and grow, it needs oxygen. So what they would do, they would fan the fire and it would grow. So that's what this scripture is talking about. Those fanners, what's going to allow that fire to grow, because in Revelation it talks about how America is going to be a lake of fire. All right, how is it going to be a lake of fire? All those missiles that are going to be shot over here. And what's going to make it? What's going to allow it to grow? All the other nations are going to use their missiles to, basically, America is going to get jumped nuclearly, if that's even a word. You know, America is going to get beat down by nuclear missiles from all angles. Okay. Now let me continue. It says that shall fan her and shall make her land empty. Right, because the scriptures say that America is going to be desolate. It's going to be a desolate wilderness. Now, what thing can make a land desolate? In a damn near or a desert, not damn near desert. That's going to make a continent a desert. Missiles. All right, it says, and shall empty her land, for in the day of trouble they shall be against her round about. And that's talking about those other nations. They're gonna bombard America with their thermonuclear missiles. All right, verse 3, it says, and against him that bendeth, let the archer bend his bow. What's that talking about? That's showing you. That's not talking about no bow and arrow. No archer with a bow and arrow. Because what archer with a bow and arrow can cause that much damage to a country, to a whole continent? That's showing you it's talking about ICBM missiles. All right. It says, against him that bendeth, let the archer bend his bow, and against him that lifteth himself up in his brigandine. Now, what's that talking about? That's talking about America, because he's the one. What's their quote? They say, only the few, the proud, the Marines, right? America is very pompous about their military, right? All right, you ask in any everyday cracker out there on the street, and they'll boast about how powerful their military is, because why? That's what they see on TV, and that's what they're told. Which, at one point, the Most High did allow them to be a power, but guess what? That's coming to an end, man. All right, the Most High is systematically breaking down Esau's kingdom and his society. All right, and his army, because right now their army is run thin, and that's the same thing that happened. That was one of the same reasons that brought down ancient Rome. All right, their army was spread thin. So it says, and against him that lifteth himself up in his brigandine, and spare ye not her young men, destroy ye utterly all her host. All right, and that's talking about the armies, man. Because it tells you in Revelation, in 2nd Ezra's, I believe it's either the 15th or the 16th chapter, it tells you there are going to be a lot of widows, man. Right? Because you're going to have a lot of these men that are going to be fighting in this Third World War, and they're not going to come back. So it says, spare ye not her young men, destroy ye utterly all her hosts. When you go into the word host, that's talking about armies, man. All right, the host is talking about an army. All right, now verse 4, I'll just stop at this verse right here. It says, thus the slain shall fall in the land of the Chaldeans. And the Chaldeans, what? The land of the Chaldeans. That's another nickname, right, for America. Because the Chaldeans, let's see what it says about the Chaldeans. The Chaldeans were the ancient witches and warlocks. All right, let's see what this says about the Chaldeans. All right, it says a territory in Lower Mesopotamia. All right, it doesn't really go into Also, it says what? By implication, a Chaldean, as if so descended, also an astrologer or a stargazer, which goes into what? Witchcraft. Okay? Alright? So, yeah, the Chaldeans were the ancient witches and warlocks. And that's what America is. They're the Chaldeans back again, because the way America was established was through was through witchcraft. Look how the buildings in Washington D.C. were excavated. They were um, created to a T. Look, you've got certain buildings that if you connect them together, they make a picture of an owl or a 5-pointed star. And these buildings were created in the foundation of America. So, the foundation of America was pure witchcraft, was pure Satanism. Okay, all right, and I'm gonna stop there. The next video, I'll see where the Spirit takes me, whether I continue on in this chapter or I just break down another verse, word, or chapter. Okay, so this is GMS Breakdowns. Until the next show, Shalom.